I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. I'm honored to have with me today Nina Ferrell, and she is in Salt Lake City and works for the Salt Lake Behavioral Health Hospital. So, welcome to today's podcast. We're so excited to have you. What I'd love to do is ask you to give us a 90-second overview of what it is that you do, Nina, and how you got into it and why.
Well, I am the Assistant Director of Business Development for a large psychiatric and chemical dependency hospital. So I have a master's in counseling and have been working in various capacities in healthcare and primarily mental health and rehabilitation for about 30 years. One of the things that's the most interesting about my job that I have now is I get to work with the community. So a lot of what I do is outreach and is working with individuals on education, on helping individuals access our services, and then also helping determine what are the needs in the community and what are challenges for them in terms of helping their patients and clients access services. So I love to work as sort of a bridge between services and the community, and I've been doing that in different capacities for quite a while now.
So working really as a liaison between the hospitals and everybody in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, how did you get into that work? Where did you
My
start?
goodness, many years ago, more than I care to mention, got my master's degree, and my journey began working in post acute brain injury rehabilitation. So I worked in brain injury rehab and then neuro rehab, working with spinal cord, brain injuries, burns, etc., for about 15 years. Then I was a vocational rehab counselor, I think, and then I worked into setting up and helping run geriatric acute psych units, and then most recently helping to develop and open a very large acute psychiatric hospital. This all came about. I was originally a business major and I have a background in business as well. But I was kind of recruited by the psych department in college as an undergraduate student, and it was something that I felt very compelled to do, and something that seemed to be a part of me. And I always was fascinated with the idea of why do some people take one road, some people take another, some people struggle, some people succeed. I was just always fascinated by that, and that's kind of driven a lifelong desire on my part to kind of help find those solutions and those answers, to find that little key that turns someone to get help, to decide not to hurt themselves, to decide to go to seek rehabilitation, whatever it is that they need. And I see myself as kind of a conduit trying to help that happen.
That sounds so awesome. And I know there's so many people that need help that don't even know, they may not even be able to
Indeed.
acknowledge that they need it, much less know where to
Mm-hmm.
go to get it. So you're serving the world well, I'm sure. So I would love to hear, what do you see as the biggest problem in your industry right now, and how are you working to solve it?
Well, that's a multifaceted challenge with mental health care. There's been some things in our industry that have, I think, been improving, and that's the reduction of the stigma of mental health. I think is talked about more. That's an ongoing issue, but I do see us making good strides in that. But we continue to need to share that message that mental health is healthcare. There's, in my opinion, no difference. And why, if you the more you study, I was always fascinated by neuropsychology and how the physiology of our brains work. And the more you look at that, the more you realize it is medical. It's chemical reactions, it's dopamine levels, it's other things that influence us. When you're working with folks with PTSD and severe trauma, that can actually affect the pathways of your brain. They can actually see that on scans, how your brain operates, and why folks have PTS and stress reactions. It's very much a medical thing, and it responds to treatment, both counseling treatment and medicines and holistic approaches. So things can definitely be made better. And so it's an ongoing challenge to share that, to share it in all communities and in all work settings, that mental health care is just healthcare and there's nothing to be ashamed of. And of course, following right behind that is then finding the funding necessary to pay for these services. And an area that we're looking at very carefully in Salt Lake is how to help the homeless, because our unsheltered population, which is what we prefer to call them, our unsheltered folks, a lot of their co-occurring issues are related to mental health care and substance use. Very often substance use is very much on the tail of untreated mental health conditions, and folks don't realize that they tend to self-medicate, not realizing how those things are linked and that both of those can be treated and people do get better. It's important to not give up, and to help encourage and say, hey, it's okay to struggle. I'm glad you told me. I'm here for you. There's no stigma. Let's see what we can do to find help. And so I think the challenge is making sure that the services are there for everyone when they're ready, no matter what their funding source is or their ability to access services. Sometimes we have to reach out more than we have been. Folks can't always take the initiative to do that themselves.
Right. And I will share with you personally, my husband's always wanted to say, well, why don't they just do something different? Or why don't they leave? Or, if you're in
Mm-hmm.
an abusive relationship or something, he struggles with that because that's not the way his brain works. And I'm like, not everybody's got that get up and go or whatever that is. So,
Some
interesting.
individuals are very good at grooming, and sometimes it takes many years of conditioning such that you don't know that you can or that you're worthy of making those changes, or they keep you in such fear and so isolated that it becomes increasingly difficult to make those decisions. It's very complex. Also, folks who often come from a background of abuse or neglect, anxiety, or substance use in their formative years sometimes can migrate towards those relationships of similar concern in adulthood. So they have layers of perhaps never understanding good coping skills and self worth that makes it even harder for them to take those steps.
Absolutely. Well, I would love to know where you see your industry going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how you're staying on top of
What
everything.
a wonderful question. I continue to hope mental health care will be in the forefront, because it affects everything. It affects financial. It affects everything. People's health, their ability to work, their ability to be successful citizens. And I think more and more the government is seeing that it's not a them versus us or those people kind of situation. It's all of us. We just may or may not talk about it. I don't personally don't know anyone who doesn't have a crazy relative somewhere in the mix. And very often folks with substance use, we just don't talk about it, the crazy Uncle Harry or whatever.
Mhm.
But we all have them. We're all in very similar boats, and substance use and mental health affects all ages and all socioeconomic levels. So I think that that's starting to change. One of my roles too is I'm the legislative liaison for our hospital with the legislature. So I'm up there sharing a voice for our industry, which is in the acute inpatient psychiatric and chemical dependency side of things, and learning what their challenges are in terms of appropriations of funds for treatment, and then also sharing our side of things with challenges with insurance companies, reimbursement, on and on. So I think we need to talk. I would encourage folks to not hesitate to reach out. When I first started working with the legislature, frankly, I was fairly terrified. I have no background in politics or the political process. But I find that were very, very eager to hear from me. What are your challenges? What do you need? What are your recommendations? Because they don't have this background either. So please go and meet with your legislatures and share what your concerns are. They don't bite, I promise. So make friends with them, get to know them. I think that that's important, and that's going to be an area I'm keeping an eye on. I think federally as well, because one of my big concerns, have worked in geriatric psych, so dementia care and caregiving is going to be huge. It is such as the population ages here in Utah, we're going to have a very, very large aging population, and it's hard for families who have young kids, kind of the sandwich generation, trying to take care of their elderly, because some folks think that there's some magic source is going to pay for elder care in terms of residential placement for those with dementia, and it doesn't. Medicare doesn't pay for that. Medicare pays for rehabilitation, not long-term care. Medicaid doesn't always pay for it, only if you qualify to be in a nursing home, and there's becoming less and less options there. So it's something we all really need to keep our eye on. And that's the kind of conversations to have with your legislatures, if I could put in a voice for that, of the need to have funding for individuals with dementia, family support and funding. So I think elder care is going to be a big issue. They're looking at suicide and, of course, substance use. Our fentanyl problems and our high overdoses are all on everybody's radar. So I think that'll be an area that everyone is looking at. And insurance is also are starting to do more and more what they call integrative medicine, where they're in charge of not only sometimes behavioral health care is paid from one or managed from one government or contracted entity, and then medical is separate. They're starting to do that more and more together, seeing it as the same type of service. And I'm a big proponent of that, so that when you go to get your physical, it would be ideal if you could also see a social worker or a therapist or get testing done. So it's no longer just the one or the other service.
Wow, you're doing so much, and I think I have to thank you
Aw.
personally for suggesting that we all reach out to our legislature, because I think so many of us don't. We're not using our voice the way we need to. So thanks for that encouragement. And they're very approachable. That's been my experience. They are eager to learn, and if they can't help us if they don't know what
Mhm.
kind of help we
I
need.
agree. I agree, and they all
Right.
tend to have their pet projects and specialties, and they're the ones that I have spoken with were very readily willing to share. This isn't necessarily my area of expertise, but Senator so and so or Representative so and so has sponsored bills on that area in the past. Why don't you go speak with them? And so you can just kind of go and talk to any of them. It doesn't have to be just your representatives.
Right. Absolutely wonderful info. So I'd love to hear about what your biggest failure or challenge has been throughout life to this point, whether that's personal or business, and how that shaped the way you're doing business now.
I would have to say it's a combination. It's the flip side of the same coin. One of my driving
Okay.
philosophies is the word no has no meaning to me. The way that I approach the word no is, well, that approach didn't work right now that way with these people. So I am like a schnauzer. I grab onto something I want, I don't let go. Now, that has caused some failure in the past, right? Um, so over time, I've become a lot more savvy about how I approach that and working on my communication skills, getting better at developing alliances and communication. I now have a sort of have an approach where I often don't go into business meetings or meet with people unless I pretty well already know what I want from that meeting and the answer and what people's agendas are. I do my work, I do my research so that I can kind of figure out what I think might be the most successful path forward. So talk to people, reach out, network. And then if it doesn't go your way, I used to take it personally. I'd feel either rejected or frustrated or just tired. And the older I've gotten, the less I do that. And I look at it as chipping away towards a goal instead of getting everything I want right away. So I am kind of renowned for that. They just kind of know I'm super persistent. But I've gotten a lot nicer about it, and I tried to develop a little bit more patience. But and so that would be one thing, and I think it's also very very important to have a clear visual goal of what you want from life, whatever that is, because in my experience, the more you can see it, the more it will happen. If you set your bar here, very often that's exactly what you will bring into your life. You set it up here, and sometimes I've even marveled at myself. It's like, wow, that really worked. I sit back, I'm like, I can't believe I actually got that job, or I just put some crazy salary out there and got it. Like, wow. And I think that's very important. And sometimes I think as women, that's something some of us might struggle with a little bit more. I see some of my male colleagues a little bit clearer, and it's perfectly okay to ask for boom salary or to go for a certain job. This is a bit of an argument. It's those little negative voices in my head of I don't know enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't have the right title, or everyone here is more important than I am. And sometimes you just have to say what you think. And if you're respectful, if you're prepared, if you're ethical, that's a big guiding principle of mine. I find that people really respond to that. They really need that sort of gut level guidance and input. And it served me very well. And sometimes I still walk out of meetings going, oh man, I can't believe I just pushed those buttons, put it out there. But I'm just like, we'll come back and say, wow, I'm glad you said that. Someone really needed to, or that was great information. We had no idea. So don't take no for an answer. Do your work, listen, take feedback. From every opportunity that there's a failure, there's something that we gain from that. And I think that will serve you very well if you can approach your failures that way, to say, well, what can I learn from this? It's not personal. It's not you're a bad person or that you aren't skillful enough. It's just learning. And you know what? The people that you admire, maybe think have it all together, they do the exact same thing every day. You just don't see them. They learn, they make mistakes, they put stuff out there, they get feedback. It's a constant, ongoing, evolving stuff. They're not these amazing geniuses that just know so much more than you. So that would be some of my kind of guiding principles.
Oh, I love everything that you said is really resonating with me. So I'm going to be going back to listen to this podcast once it airs and listen to that
Aw.
on repeat because I needed to hear it all. So, and to me, being in the industry that I'm in, talking with people all of the time about hard things, around
Mhm.
their money and such, I hear no day in and day out, and I wear my feelings on my sleeve, and I take it personally and all those things. So it's been a hard thing for me to learn that exactly what you said is true. No, just no doesn't mean no. No means I need to ask it a different way, or yeah, you said all the things, so I don't need to circle back on that. But yeah, that was fabulous, awesome. All right, going to shift gears on you here, Nina. If you could have lunch with one person, living or deceased, who would it be and
I think
why?
that is the very hardest question. Um, you know what I come up with, and I know that's not the exact right answer, but I'm a huge animal lover, and I work with severely traumatized horses. That's kind of my side thing, and do quite a bit of behavioral training with them. And I think if I could ever have that magic conversation with someone, it would be with an animal. I That would be what I would want. I would want them to speak to me so that I could understand where they're coming from and be able to then help the world understand them better. Because that's a lot of what I do with horses. Because horses and humans very often get in conflict because they're biologically different. One's a prey animal, one's a predator. So how they respond in the fight and flight response and how they process information is completely different, and it causes all these problems and static from miscommunication. So I would love to be able to speak with an animal if I could use that as my answer.
That is the most fabulous answer I have received thus far. So thank you for sharing that. I absolutely love it. And may we wave that magic wand and have
Oh,
it actually
they're getting
happen one
closer
day.
with
I
AI,
can
I
see
think.
that
So
in
I'm excited. Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah. We'll be there. Well, listen, I want to be able to share with people how they can reach out to you, connect with you, learn more about you, all of the things. What's the best way for people to reach you?
So I work for Salt Lake Behavioral Health Hospital, and I am on LinkedIn. You can send me an invitation there. My email, you're welcome to send me email, is Nina.Ferrell, and that's Nina.Ferrell at UHSINC.com. And that's the initials for Universal Health Services Incorporated. That's our parent company. So here in Salt Lake, we are available to do mental health in services and trainings. I do a lot of training on de-escalation of aggressive behaviors for employers, for government agencies, for nursing homes. So it's a 1 hour free in service if anyone is interested. And I actually can do that virtually as well. But we just want to be a
Awesome.
resource. And if I don't have the answer, I know lots of people from a lot of different industries where I can try to connect you and network.
That's awesome. And that's what it's all about is us connecting with people that they may not even
Yeah.
know they need to know,
Also, if
right?
anyone's in crisis for a mental health crisis here in Salt Lake area, we have a 24-hour walk-in center, and the phone number there is 801-264-6000, and it's open 24/7. You can call, make an appointment, or even come in if you're in a mental health crisis or need substance use care. And like I said, totally free assessments.
What a great resource, and thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, well, we'll end the program for today. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you for
today.
having me.
I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.